there's a lot of angst about how the running backs are being utilized in this offense, concerning why don't we get them out in space catching passes? Why do we run up the middle so much? Why don't we see more of the two freshmen, Knighton and Cheney? Just a lot about, does De'Ara King understand the zone read? He doesn't seem to be making the right decision all the time. A lot of that concerning the running game.
Yeah, it's easy to talk about, and I think it's something that we talked about last week. Cam Harris got benched last game before the bye, and then he tweeted about being disrespected and everything because of the lack of workload. So I think that we saw that Miami went in a different direction at running back to start to give some of the youngsters, Jalen Knighton and Otto Cheney Jr., a little bit more of more run out there, more snaps at the expense of the starter. And, again, this is the same thing that I talk about in recruiting. And everybody's like, okay, you want insert player here. And, he should have been a Hurricane. Okay, so who are you not going to go after? You know what I mean? Who are you not going to have in this class? In order to have that. And if you're going to have, you want to have the freshman kids, that means you're going to take Cam Harris off the field. And you saw that happened in the last game. There is that. I've questioned some of the calls or decisions that De'Ara King has made in the run game. To me, it seems like something that's from just the top down of being dictated to like what we're looking at in terms of giving or keeping in the zone read game. I think that went back to, even Malik Rozier a couple of years ago. It was just like, you're keeping it. Sometimes you should give, and you give, sometimes you should keep. And I think that that's a systematic thing, and I don't like it. And especially when you're going back a couple offensive coordinators ago, and everything like that. Because I'm talking about going back to Mark Richt and Dan Enos with the quarterback run game or lack thereof there. And if you're having similar kind of numbers, non-scramble quarterback runs are pretty much the same. You're not having put a lot of called quarterback runs or ones, it seems, where, he's keeping it when there's acres of space and everything. It can be a little frustrating because, you're seeing these 2 yards up the middle or no gain, or you get 8 yards on first down, and you run an inside zone, and instead of pulling it and keeping it and running for 20, you give it to the running back and you run into the line, and the line is being, beaten to the point of attack in the run game, and it's not going anywhere like that. It can be a little concerning, especially when you, again, if you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. And you look at what Clemson has done with Travis Etienne recently. Hey, we're not going to run up the middle against Miami. We're not going to do that against whoever. So what do? They sneak him out. And everybody's like, oh, we're going to be all inside against Clemson. Like, cool. Swing pass and then profit. You know what I mean? And you want to see a little bit more of that. Cam Harris does have a couple of receiving touchdowns where, he's been up the middle, maybe on it looks like a broken play, like he's in a block on quarterback power, and then he slips up the middle for a touchdown. Jalen Knighton had that touchdown against Louisville in the same kind of a thing. He's had another couple of things. So there's been some of those things, but you want to see it a little bit more. And I think that the lack of production from what we're seeing from the run game is what is dictating or showcasing to many people that maybe something different with the running backs or the run game or whatever could work, because what we're seeing has not necessarily been as effective as we want it to be.
Clemson was able to adjust against Ohio State in the college football playoff on two different fronts, one being Trevor Lawrence and his receivers couldn't separate from Ohio State defensive backs, and they were not being able to throw the ball downfield. And then Trevor Lawrence suddenly becomes a runner, and everybody was shocked by this. Trevor Lawrence can run on a defense like this? Yeah, he did. They weren't expecting it. Secondly, Travis Etienne couldn't run the ball from a traditional running back position. They couldn't push Ohio State down the field. They couldn't get in the run. They started using him as a receiver, and he torched them in the fourth quarter. And we saw that against Boston College last week. He gained 29 yards rushing in the first half, caught 7 passes for $140 in the game, and caught the game-winning touchdown pass out of the backfield. So Clemson was able to go to plan B, C, D against either really good teams or against teams that were pushing them in the moment.
And that, again, that's just what we're talking about, of being able to have the malleability on offense to go to something else if what you initially desired to do was taken away. And again, the things that we're doing with De'Aaron King and the running backs, whether it's in the run game or in the short passing game or, things like that, the things that we're doing are not successful. So lots of us are looking for options that can be successful. And I mean, I talked about it from a schematic standpoint last week. Justin Tatavio writes a bunch of great X's and O stuff on our site. Roman Marcianti writes a bunch of great X's and O stuff on our site. Talking even with Daniel Gould, who's not an affiliated blogger or anything. He just kind of does his own thing. He looks at all the statistics, and then he'll look at some X's and O's, and he's come up with some different things. So I'm giving you 4 people, 3 from State of the U, and then another one who I know well and trust. And then, there's other people on top of that who are looking for answers because, again, they're answers that are needed because the performance of the engagements and interactions that we're doing with those people who run the ball, De'Aaron King, Cameron Harris, Donald Chaney Jr., and Jalen Knighton, and, the short screen game and things like that has not been that successful. And again, I said it last week, and I mean, I hate to do it, but I got to do it. I don't understand at the end of the game against Virginia why we're going to Robert Burns in the fourth quarter for snaps that count at running back when Donald Chaney Jr. is cooking. He's the hot hand at running back, and those 10 carries for 41 yards or 43 yards and a touchdown, those were very impactful at a time in the game that really mattered. And all of a sudden, then you want to go to whomever it was. I couldn't have cared less. It could have been Robert Burns. It could have been going back to Cameron Harris, who was clearly benched. I don't know why you go away from the guy who got you there and the stud freshman who could help you bring that home. I don't understand the choice to go away from that at that time. I don't care who it was. It could have been it could have been Jalen Knighton at that time. It could have been any other running back on this roster. I don't care. Why are you going away from this guy at that time? And it's things like that that are questionable. And so we're looking for answers because there seem to be problems that need solutions if you want Miami to continue to win games.
Austin Kane's got a recruiting question. We'll get to that in just a second because we've got like 3 other comments concerning the offense that flow with what we're talking about right now. Porp75, how much of the seemingly quote-unquote limited playbook can be attributed to a new offensive coordinator, transfer quarterback, COVID's disturbance to the offseason, especially 9 weeks in?
I would say little to none at this point because we've already seen that there's been zigs to the zag. You know what I mean? Louisville, that game, it seemed okay after running what we ran, which was basically, the up and A one run play against UAB. We need some wrinkles. We need some counters to what we did. We had them. We had plenty of them against Louisville. Them touchdowns, scheming people butt naked wide open. They still haven't covered Brevin Jordan up the seam. They still haven't located where Cameron Harris or Jalen Knighton were on those back-to-back 75-yard touchdown plays. So look, we needed a counter. We needed something to get off of what they were looking at, from what we had shown before. We had that. Florida State, we beat the hell out of them. They had no idea what we were doing on either side of the ball. And I love that. But we've already shown the ability to be multiple. We've already shown the ability. Look, even the last game against Virginia, you come out on those first 2 plays, zip, zap, zoom. Sorry, not even. You get zip, zoom because it wasn't even a zap in there because it was 2 plays on it, and then you cue up the band and change the scoreboard. We've already seen the ability to do these things. So to me, to say, oh, well, look, and I get that everybody's dealing with COVID and everything, but if you want to talk about that, 9 weeks, I mean, you're two bye weeks and 6 games behind you already. So this is going to be week 9 upcoming, and we've already seen things happen on the field that showcase the ability to change the paradigm, to change the plays, to change tendencies, and then exploit the defenses. Miss me with the rest of that then. And it would be one thing if we hadn't seen that ability already. We've seen it changed. We've seen this offense and defense, but we're not talking about defense right now, but we've seen this offense change to the tendencies or change against the tendencies that they've shown, take advantage of what the defense is doing to combat those, and then go and score points. So I don't want to hear that we can't do it. I just need you to do it.
Yeah, once you've blown the top off the defense, man, that shows that you can do so much after that, because if they want to soften their coverage, then, hey, we'll take the little hitch routes all day for 8 to 12 yards. We can do that if you're going to play that soft, or we're just going to keep blowing the top off if you're going to be stubborn and try to play us man-to-man.
And the other thing about it is those stop routes turn into touchdowns. And that's something that I've been talking about for years. You remember that bowl game, the Russell Athletic Bowl, where I was there in Orlando and a bunch of us were, where West Virginia was playing off coverage all day because they couldn't run with us. And I was screaming it. I even tweeted it from the stadium when I had coverage. I said, just throw the now route. Just get the ball to a David Njoku or whomever. And they finally threw a stop route to Amon Richards. You know what happened? Touchdown. I think it was like 64 or 70 yards or something. They just said, look, fine, you want to play off? Here, we're giving it to this dude. This should have been a first-round draft pick. I'm so still hurt for him, man. But we're going to give it to him now.
I know you do.
We're going to give it to him now and then let him go. And I don't think that you can run with him because you're playing off. So even those things, if you think, hey, I can take that 8 or 12 yards with the athletes we have in Miami, them 8 or 12 yards can turn into 75 yards, a touchdown, kick up the band, and change the scoreboard. You know what I mean? So it's those little things can go a long way because we have this kind of athletes. We have this kind of talent on the roster. You know what I mean? And so you can take the top off. You can confuse them where, Louisville, they're still looking around to figure out where somebody went on a play. They did the, or what. There's so many things, and we've seen these glimpses of these kind of things. I know you're not going to hit a home run every play. You're not going to get that perfect look every play. You're not going to get any of those things every single time. And anybody thinking that you're going to get those every single time, relax. You're not playing NCAA on freshmen. It's not going to be there every single time that you align. However, what you do on offense, I think that there's the ability to be more productive and more consistently productive, especially given the occasional ability to take the top off, run past everybody, and blow, and score from distance, which Miami scored from distance quite a couple times this year and had these chunk plays. I think that maybe you can add in a little bit more of efficiency with the explosiveness, and that would help everybody on the offensive side of the ball.
You can take any sport, and there's a risk-reward factor that you have to weigh the abilities of your team against the abilities of the other team, the game situation, everything involved. When a runner's leading off first base, you have to weigh, okay, who's at the plate? How good is the pitcher? How good is the catcher to get the ball down to second base? Whether that runner should take off to put themselves in scoring position. Is it worth the risk of the out that's probably a 20 or 25% possibility of happening? Same thing in basketball. Are we going to shoot threes? Well, it's a tougher shot. It's from distance, but it rewards us what is the math? 3/2, another half point per. So how good are we from distance versus what is the defense doing, on and on and on. And at some point in the NBA, they determined, okay, we need to shoot, most teams that are doing the analytics, we need to shoot X number of threes. Of course, they've got to be decent threes, and that's why you see these. We would have never seen years ago teams come down on a break and be throwing it out to the 3-point line rather than taking it to the hole. So on and on and on. The same thing in football. It's 4th and 3. We're at the 50. Do we punt? Do we not punt? Well, the same deal. Well, we may get burned and we give up the ball at the 50, but if we on and on and on, there's risk reward to all of this. And in the passing game, if you're going to take your shots downfield, it's, well, yeah, are we taking our shot on 1st and 10? And there's probably a 30% chance we're going to hit this pass if we throw it 40 yards. But if we hit it, it's a huge play. Plus, we set ourselves up to do good things to show that we're going to take this shot versus it's going to be 2nd and 10 most likely. So we kind of wasted a play if you just want to look at what we accomplished in the here and now. It's all risk reward in regards to measuring your skills and your abilities versus the opponent and the situation.